Life is about balance, and since this channel is a huge part of my life, I try to keep it balanced as well. Whether it's American or Japanese, whether it's European, gasoline or diesel, large displacement, small displacement, turbocharged, supercharged, naturally aspirated, whether it's blown up catastrophically or it's not that bad. Okay, that part seems a little imbalanced as of late. Some of you viewers let me know that we haven't had a really bad engine on the channel in quite some time, probably a month or two. So I'm here to balance it out as well. I'm going to add a few ounces here, and I've got a catastrophically failed Pentastar 3.6 liter out of a 2012 Dodge Charger. Now I know we just tore down a Maserati Ghibli that has an engine that's basically this engine. There are a lot of differences, but it's pretty similar. So it seems kind of topical, just a little. Now this engine, it looked okay on this side, but then someone installed an inspection port over here. Here's a better shot of the whoopsie. Something has made an exit in this general area. And there's something else about this engine. Let me just zoom out a little bit. The volume of RTV between the oil pan and the block, and also between the lower pan and the upper pan, there's some AutoZone that doesn't have any RTV on the shelf. The Pentastar is a 3.6 liter dual overhead cam V6 that makes just over 300 horsepower. It came out in 2011, and Fiat, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, they put this engine in pretty much everything. This is their own red hot sauce. It came out in the 300, in the Caravan, in the Durango, in the Grand Cherokee, in the Wrangler, in the Ram truck, in the 200. I can keep going. The ProMaster. If this engine fits in it, it's in there. Now this particular engine, I don't have all of the details on. I can tell you it is out of a 12, so it's an early one, which are, I think, the worst. Maybe not. I'm not quite sure. It also is pretty barren. It's pretty stripped. This is how I got it. So this may be a pretty quick teardown, but I also have some Maserati parts that we can compare. So it should be pretty interesting. I'm not going to get any money out of this. I'm going to be completely honest with you. There's no value in this engine at all. I did this for you guys for the video. This engine was also like cheap, so hard to argue there. Well, it looks like someone stole the sparkies out of here, so we're going to just skip that step. So the very next thing we're going to do is we're going to see if this thing turns over. Oh, we just powered through something. See, this engine's fine. I was making some crunchy noises. So, now we can take it apart. Next, we'll peel off the left-hand front or driver's side valve cover. It helps when you get all the bolts out. I think this has to come out too. There we go. Well, let's see here. All the valve trains intact. Well, chain guides look intact on both sides. Chain has plenty of tension. All the valve train is in its correct location. Nothing to see here, folks. Now for the other side. Let's see. A little bit of play, but I don't see anything terrible. This is all decent. Unlike last week's Maserati engine, This looks pretty clean in here. Not a lot of varnish. The cams don't have any damage. I think this engine is either a lower mileage engine or someone took care of it. Now we're going to see if it's drained. I believe this thing may have a little bit of oil in it, but probably not too much. Neat. Okay. This may be completely unnecessary to check, but I have the intake manifold off of the Maserati. And let's see. I doubt this is... It doesn't quite fit. I mean, it fits in the hole, but the spacing right here is the same, but the flanges are all different. Okay. I didn't need that. Let's take a look at these intake ports. Now, compared to the Maserati, these are beautiful. It's that port injection for you. It's just some debris. I don't see anything too messed up on this bank. And much of the same for this side. Now we're going to turn this thing over because I need to attack the pan. And I'm sure it's going to sound like a cash register. Ooh, this might be a bad idea. See if we can hear that again. No sale. Okay, so we're going to pull the pan how it sits, just because I don't want to be fishing for metal bits. Now I'm going to be pretty careful with this. So much RTV.
Oh.
It's pretty well organized in here. Has my wife been in this oil pan? Let's unpack this gift basket. So these are fractured rod caps, both literally and figuratively. That's a fractured rod. Interesting. Of course, we've got a perfect mint condition wrist pin. There's a rod bolt. This looks like windage tray. Ring. 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 That looks like cylinder wall or windage tray. That's odd. And most importantly, what's odd is the bearing. It is heavily damaged, but it is not thinner. There's a circlip. There's another circlip. Another circlip. Wait a second here. If there's 3 of these, and there's only 2 of these per piston. You see what I'm getting at? What is this? It's gone now. Nope, there it is. All right, so I don't know what that is. And then there's just a whole lot of gravel. I've got a couple potholes in my driveway I could fill with this. There we go. There's the remaining part of that bolt. And that just unthreads perfectly. So we only have what looks to be 1 cylinder's worth of piston rings. Interesting. Found a rubber O-ring in this mess. There's lots of ringlets, baby rings. The circlip thing has me baffled. See what I did there? All right, now we turn this thing over, make a mess. I'm sure it's going to be just fine. It still sounds like a cash register. So the timing cover bolts to the upper oil pan. We're just going to knock all those bolts out of the way now, then we'll strip the front of the timing cover. It's raining pieces. Is that all? I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Now we'll get the crank pulley bolts. Like butter. Is that it? That might be it. Let's pull off this thermostat housing. Did I miss a bolt? No. Ooh, we got a little bit of coolant left. Spins pretty nice. A little bit of resistance, but it's not terrible. This would be a good backup. Ah. Did that go in?
Yes.
I'm relatively certain I have all the bolts out. Not 100%. This one actually has places to pry. Ooh, I think we're on to something. And there's the timing cover. And there's the timing system. Man, this looks so familiar. I'm getting a little bit of deja vu. Well, this is pretty not good in here. But for some reason, the guides are in good shape in this engine. Okay, comparison time. On the left, we have the 3.6 liter Pentastar. On the right, the Maserati. And this is a little different. You can tell by the Maserati emblem embossed. This has a Mopar and a bubble right here, but they look really similar. So this is the thermostat housing from the Chrysler. And now we're going to see, yeah, that fits. And now the Maserati right onto the Pentastar. Now the gasket design is different. This uses a gasket that fits inside of that, but when you take the gasket off, both of these surfaces are the same. Literally every bolt hole lines up, but that's not really that surprising.
Eric, something came for you today.
So now the water pump. This thing just came in. See, this is gonna be a high quality part here. Perfect. All right, so here is a brand new to this timing cover water pump from a Maserati engine, and yep, that fits. Now there's only one thing left to try, and that is I had a comment on the Maserati engine that says you can literally bolt the timing cover from the Maserati onto a Pentastar. Let's find out. Okay, in my hand I have timing cover from the Ghibli engine. Well, this... whoever that person was, you were 100% correct. This fits like a glove, which means absolutely nothing since no one is going to do this. But that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at this timing system here. Well, I can tell you that I noticed a piece of RTV on the Chrysler timing cover, and I can tell you that that was on the actual tensioner. So someone has had this off, which I don't think is that rare for one of these engines. But the timing system all looks really good. I wouldn't say it looks new, but nothing's coming apart. I don't see chips of anything anywhere. Ooh, there's some chaos going on down there. But for the rest of this, it looks pretty decent. Because Safety Tote, bless its heart, is no longer in usable condition, I have to resort to other methods for safety. Now, I could wear safety goggles, or I can just distance myself from the potential explosion. I think that's what we're going to do. No! It's supposed to work. No, you know what we're going to do? We're going to break this loose by hand. See? See, that would not have blown up in my face. You gotta work harder, not smarter. All right. Well, that actually does have quite a bit of wear. But it's not terrible, it's not coming apart. It would work in a pinch. These guys are in such good shape, I can't get the chain off by just removing one piece. This is under some tension. I'm just gonna look the other way. Oh, it's going to be fine. Yeah, it's fine. I guess I'll take the rest of these out. Yeah, you can definitely tell that that rail has some wear. Still not as bad as the Maserati engine. There we go. There's one nice, beautiful chain. And what the what? I guess I could take that out. Let's do that. Haha, nope. That did not help me. This must come off. Oh, we're gonna get it off. We're going to do it without pulling the cam gears off the cams. Okay, it's time for blue. Well, that was good. Gosh. It still is. There we are. Nice looking chain. That rail, they all have some pretty good wear, but they're not coming apart. Well, guys, I found a problem already. Someone put anti-seize on the camshafts. I mean, this looks like powdered forbidden glitter. Yep. All right, let's get these cams off so we can pull some cylinder heads. Well, the journals in the head don't look too bad, although there's quite a bit of metal in the oil in that journal. All of the rollers feel good. Nothing's kind of grainy or damaged. It's in better shape than the Maserati. And the cams and caps, they show some wear. The cam's got a little bit of wear. A little bit more wear. You can see that silver hue. That's that forbidden glitter that we're talking about. Cam cap's a little worn. Let's look at the other cam. And the oil feels kind of gritty that's coming off of these caps. You can see it looks like the worst. It's still not terrible. All right, time to crack these head bolts loose. Oh, come on, the brakes are on. Right? I gotta put the big brakes on. That should do it. Okay, see if this comes right off. Uh-huh. That's not right. Let's get this head gasket off. Not everyone has kids, but it's apparent that this piston is broken. Something is unhappy in this cylinder. I don't know if these are connected, but I'm pretty sure that one is going to fail our test. Let's start with the best odds here. So one of these is not like the other. Now the cylinder head doesn't look too bad. I don't see anything obviously bent, but when you get to the rear cylinder, there's actually some debris embedded in the combustion chamber. It's pretty interesting. It skipped this cylinder, and it came from that one. Now we can start on the other side. Okay. Just a little bitty tap. Well, much like the other side, the journals in the head look decent. The rollers feel good. This all looks pretty nice. Now these cam caps and camshafts are a little bit nicer. I still wouldn't call them perfect. They just have less wear, likely less metal run through them. Now we can crack these head bolts loose. Off comes head number 2. There was a piston here. All right, let's do our test. That's normal. That's not normal. Can I have my hammer back? Thank you. Decent looking head gasket. So that one looks okay. That one looks okay. And, ooh, there's some There's a bunch of carnage in there. Oh, it's bad. Cylinder walls really tore up. I think this is the cylinder where the wrist pin came from. Looks like the adjacent rod's broken. No surprise. Cylinder head. Rear two cylinders look okay. That is not okay. I really wish we had the spark plugs because I bet you this one was smashed pretty bad. You can tell that one does not look like the rest of them. Actually folded over the edge of that combustion chamber. Time for some more comparisons. So here is the head gasket from the 3.6. Fits like a glove. But you can definitely tell that the bore is significantly smaller on this 3-liter engine. And now we're going to take, we're dropping parts, the Pentastar head. Like a glove. So, if you were really crazy and you wanted to build, no, I don't even think that would work. But if you want to buy head studs for your Pentastar, you can just buy what Maserati uses. So now I'm really torn because I really want to pull the upper pan with the engine upside down, but I also know that if I flip this engine over, it's just going to litter the floor with engine parts. What do I do? I guess we'll just pull it like this. There's just some 13s. It's not going to be hard. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. That bolt is bent. How does that happen? Someone's been here before. It may not come down too easy.
Oh. Hey. A piston nugget.
Late night snack? Don't mind if I do. Oh my gosh. Hey, I need that. Don't do that. Oh, that's cool. You know when you make the right call, and you know you made the right call? Well, pulling the pan in that position was the right call. Because all of this would have rained inside of that engine. I would have been fishing it out for hours. So this fell when I went to drop this pan. Got one large piston nugget. A slightly scarred wrist pin. Those were rods. Very destroyed. Another piston nugget. There's part of a rod bearing. There's a ring. There's the fourth circlip. Lots of, looks like block and piston material. This might be windage tray. There's a piston squirter. There's quite a lot. Ooh, another ring. Another part of a piston squirter. I somehow think that the oil pan may have made it out of this situation unscathed. You can clearly see the sheer volume of RTV use. This has definitely been off. I wonder if it was for doing a timing job or other. Now we can turn this thing over, finally. It's probably going to leak some stuff. Oh, that's not good. Well, right off the bat, we can tell that the windage tray has been literally blown apart. It's just gone. It usually covers this area, but it has departed. This part still looks okay. That should come off pretty easy. That's part of the windage tray. It's definitely massively smashed into the oil pickup tube. Broke the solenoid off of the oil pump for the variable volume. Yeah, it's broken. Pretty bad. One thing I definitely expected to see was a completely clogged pickup with RTV, and I'm disappointed. There's definitely some metal in there, but it's by no means clogged. Okay, now we can remove the pickup tube. Oh, that took a beating. Slightly restricted. Next, we'll remove the oil pump chain by taking this out. This feels so similar. There we go. And now the oil pump. There we are. Ooh, it's got some oil in it still. Wow. Sounds like an old Auga horn. Now let's rip this oil pump apart. Oh, there's the outer housing. A little bit of wear, a little bit of damage. Let's just make a mess of this. Well, that doesn't come out because I've got that in there. What do you think the over-under of me being able to get this out is? There we go. So you can see those veins have similar wear to that Maserati oil pump. A little bit of wear in the housing as well. Well, the block, lots of damage. There's the hole. Right there. Okay, let's get the rest of this windage tray off. Get this rotating assembly out. I know what you guys are saying. Windage tray, more like blowage tray. Boy, this is all similar. Sparkles. All right, now we're going to turn this over. We're actually going to start in the middle. We'll get 3, 4, and then 5 and 6. Ooh, that stinks.
Sorry guys, I lost audio here. I'm not really sure what happened, but this was me trying to fight the remnants of cylinder 2's rod. I had to hammer the socket on here, and getting it off was a little dicey, but it really didn't fight me too hard. We've definitely dealt with worse on this channel. The real struggle was not so much the rod cap, but the remnants of this rod. It was bent sideways and kicked against part of the crankshaft, and I had to use a hammer and my long punch to knock it out of there. And it was a ton of work for what it was, just because the rod was bent. Thankfully I was able to fish it out, and it came out just fine. I mean, it's not fine, but it came out okay. It's shaped a little weird. It's fine. Just get it hot and straighten it out. It'll be fine. And I turned the engine on its side to get the remnants of cylinder 2's piston out. It was just pretty much just the crown, and it took quite a lot to get it out, actually. Turns out pistons don't like being at an angle, so I had to really hammer on this thing. But it did come out. We've never had one that we couldn't get out, and at least now I have it to compare to the rest of them.
Well, let's take a look at the rods and pistons. First, the bearings. So these obviously had some heat in them, but they're not super thin. I don't think they're thin enough to spin, at least not roll on top of each other. And that's not the only bearing damage that we found taking this apart. That looks pretty chewed up, but this is pretty bad. And what's interesting is that coincides with the heat. So friction creates the heat, which turns that color, and lack of lubrication creates the friction and the damage in the bearing. And that's what we're seeing here. Now, for the actual rods and pistons, this is kind of the exploded view. Now, I'm not quite sure how this all transpired. I would imagine this developed a bunch of play between the crankshaft and the rod, and it beat the rod into pieces and stretched one of the rod bolts, and then it came apart. The wrist pin even has damage. It's caved in on one side. The piston, we have some pretty large piston nuggets, smaller pieces, definitely not a family size. The rings are in great shape. Now this piston, it was wedged sideways in there, and as you can see, it's in pretty rough condition. But not as bad as the rod. So I don't really think this rod had any kind of failure. I think it was just a victim of circumstance. I think when this rod let go, it got in the way of this one. I'm sure it was at idle, picking up some tea on the way to church, and it just snapped, just like that. But the rest of these remaining four, these all look like they're in pretty good shape. A little bit of skirt wear, just on the thrust side. And at first I thought this might be a hydrolock failure, but typically in a hydrolock failure, you'll see the rods compress, and then the pistons will hit the crankshaft, and there'll be marks in the bottom of the pistons. And not that we could easily tell here, but I don't really think that would coincide with the oiling problems. Those are two separate issues. This all looks relatively unscathed towards this end. Now comparison time. On the right is the Maserati rod and piston. On the left is the Pentastar. You can clearly see the difference in displacement. 3/6 pistons are a lot bigger. But the overall rods, they're not that different in size. These are a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. Of course, the machine work is significantly better. They're not fractured rods. These are split rods, machined. Still pretty similar. Piston design is very different, though. As you can see, port injection on the right, direct injection on the left. Pretty sure the Maserati has higher compression than the Pentastar does. Now it's time for this secondary chain to come out before we can pull the crank. It's not under a ton of tension here. Oh, look. A piece of engine. Yeah, this looks like it's in pretty good shape. This is a little bit better design. I can't shoot this across the shop. How dare you do that to me, Chrysler? You steal my fun. You know what? Two can play this game. Oh, I ruined it now. But that was worth it. All right, now I think just like the other side, I can slide these. Voila! It's identical. Although actually, it's not. So these have Babbitt style bearings or bushings in here, where the Maserati had nice roller bearings. I bet those parts are interchangeable, but I don't know where they are. All right, we're going to see if this fits. Yep. So, Maserati made that better. Now it's time to attack the main caps. Well, the main bearings, at least the upper shells, don't look too bad, although there's a little bit of debris in here. Not awful, but the block, whew, took a beating, knocked the piston squirter out. Several big impacts on that side. But that's the bad side. Ventilation hole, many more dings. The block is also damaged from that bent rod, just carving away at that block. In fact, it did damage to the main cap too. Now the bottom shells look not so great. They're not as bad as you'd expect, but they're still not good. Crankshaft has tons and tons of damage on the counterbalances. I mean, these were basically, it was basically a hammer swinging around inside of this. Yeah, it's pretty bad. A lot of that's from impact marks. Although you can kind of tell a little bit of discoloration. It's not as significant as you'd expect. The rest of the crank looks pretty average. There's some pretty moderate wear. That journal is probably the worst looking one aside from the one that let go. Time for more comparisons. On the top, the Pentastar crankshaft. On the bottom, the Maserati F160 crankshaft. So you can see the machine work is quite a lot better on the Maserati as you'd expect. Even the casting is nicer. But the crankshafts are all they're very similar. There's a few differences, but of course with different displacement, you need different size counterweights. I bet we can set this crank for the Maserati right into the Pentastar. Let's do it. You cannot do that. So the overall journal size is different. So while it does physically fit in the block, they are not interchangeable. Not that people are going to go and try all kinds of crazy stuff with a Pentastar, but you never know. There you can see the difference. I really thought that was going to work. We have one thing left to try, and that is, does a Maserati F160 oil pan fit on a Pentastar? You could put one of these pans on a Pentastar and it will bolt together. Why would you ever do this? I don't know, but I wanted to know. This is the kind of stuff I would try in my early days in this business just to see what would fit because I had access to it all. So this is always fun for me. No one should ever do this. But here it is. I've been tearing engines down on this channel for 2.5 years. And one of the things I've learned in doing so is that it doesn't matter what kind of engine I'm tearing down. I find people that hate it and find people that love it. Now the Pentastar engines seem to get a lot of hate, but not for the reasons that this engine is blown up. This engine blew up for reasons that would kill just about any engine. If you run it low on oil or a pickup gets clogged, stuff's going to happen. You're going to have problems if you don't change your oil on time. Now this engine was pretty clean inside, but the overzealous amount of RTV applied to this engine tells me that someone has been in there. Maybe they pulled the rod cap off and they didn't torque it down correctly, although that really wouldn't explain why bearings were torn up throughout this engine. They weren't that bad, but they were not that great either. I still have a hard time believing that rod shattered because of rod knock, but maybe those bearings didn't look that thin to create that much of a gap for that rod and crank to act like a hammer and shatter that rod. Either way, this was a really fun one to tear down. It was awesome comparing it to the Maserati parts. I don't usually get the chance to do that. That's stuff I used to do all the time when I had time a long time ago. Anyway, if you'd like to buy parts off of this engine, or if you need a good 3.6, I don't even know if I have one in stock, but I can find one. If you need any other parts for anything else I've torn down, I'm going to leave our email in the video description. You can also go to Importapart.com and peruse our inventory. I've been uploading our cars just about every single week. This car always seems to get a lot of attention when I do an outro with it behind me. And people ask about it. I've done many videos, many of you have seen them on this car, and now I just drive it because that's what I put it together for. I've put a few thousand miles on it. No complaints. It's great. I really hope you enjoyed this teardown. As always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one.